Good evening. Thank you for coming. Very special edition of the Aurora Dialogues series, which is a gathering of minds and spirits around important humanitarian topics. The last few years we've been doing these online, and it's really, really nice to get back together in person. So quick round of applause for that. My name's Armine Afeyan. I'm the CEO of the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative. At Aurora, we know that in the darkest of times, the lights of humanitarians shine the brightest. That's the theme of the song Shine, an original song by Grammy-nominated performing artist and philanthropist Aloe Blacc, which we'll hear later tonight. A real treat, so yeah. We're good at that. I'm not gonna do it justice here, and I'm certainly not gonna sing, but I will quote from the song. To the Aurora humanitarians, he says, "When the road ahead looks dim, and you tremble in your stride, trust you'll find the strength within. The brightest light will be your guide. And I believe in you, and I know that you will shine." What he says so beautifully is that humanitarians are the brightest light, the best of humanity. Together, they form the most beautiful constellation, even and especially against the backdrop of the darkest night. As it is to many here, this work is personal to me. I come to it as a first-generation American and a member of the Armenian diaspora from what is now Eastern Turkey. I am the first in my family in 100 years not to be forcibly displaced. And the gratitude I feel for that is a true north in my life, as I know it is for many others here tonight. With every crisis that unfolds in every population that gets displaced, new diasporas form. They come from all places, they go to all places, they cover all corners of the world, but they have something in common: survivorship. Crises create diasporas of survivors. They are uniquely equipped to adapt and grow, and in many cases help others do the same. The Aurora humanitarians and so many of those that are partners at Community Sponsorship Hub help to restart their lives demonstrate that in spades. We're gonna hear from two of the Aurora humanitarians tonight, Iftikher and Josephine. We're very lucky to have them with us. A quick round of applause for them. And just one more note on that, just to say that while the bug in the system is the fact that people get displaced, the feature in the system are the immigrants and the refugees that come out of that. Empowering them, shining a light on their stories and on their resilience is the mission of everyone, from my point of view. Our moderator this evening is Jenni Cardamone, Vice President of Partnerships at DevEx. She'll guide us through an engaging and thought-provoking discussion that I hope will inspire all of you to have a global impact by supporting grassroots humanitarians worldwide and to take local action in your own communities through efforts like some of those you'll hear about tonight. Many of you know Aurora is founded on the principle of gratitude in action. That was an oft-recited refrain by one of our co-founders, Dr. Vartan Grigoryan. We're very, very fortunate to have his family here with us tonight. And gratitude in action is best put into action when you know how to do it. And you're gonna hear about some really exciting ways to do that tonight. I'll take a brief moment to share a video with you about the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative, after which you'll be hearing from Annie Nolte-Henning, Executive Director of Community Sponsorship Hub. After the dialogues, we will hear from Aloe Blacc. He will perform a few songs, including Shine. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you for being a part of our community and this important conversation. Enjoy.
The Aurora Prize for Awakening Humanity is the flagship program of the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative that seeks to address humanitarian challenges around the world. The prize is a global humanitarian award that recognizes and supports individuals who put themselves at risk to save the lives, health, or freedom of those suffering as a result of violent conflict and major human rights violations. Each Aurora Prize laureate is given $1 million and an opportunity to continue the cycle of giving by allocating the majority of their prize money to help the most destitute. This approach helps the initiative create a ripple effect that has impacted the lives of over 3.2 million individuals across 56 countries and territories, facing war, displacement, conflict, persecution, and other humanitarian issues. Aurora exemplifies the concept of gratitude in action, celebrating the power of the human spirit that compels one to act in the face of adversity for the benefit of others.
Thank you, Armine, and for Aurora's partnership with the Community Sponsorship Hub, where I am the Executive Director. I'm Annie Nolte-Henning, and I am so grateful to be here tonight. I couldn't agree more with what you heard from Armine and from the video. Each humanitarian act creates a ripple effect that builds into waves of change, transforming not only the lives of those who need protection, but also the communities that are welcoming them. We heard about how there are a lot of global challenges right now and incredible humanitarians around the world that are addressing them. And I'm here to talk about how you can be a humanitarian locally. So I am excited to introduce you to a program that activates local humanitarian leaders to solve some of the globally humanitarian issues. The Welcome Corps, it's a program of the U.S. Department of State, acts as a platform for local humanitarians who are working to bring peace, security, and dignity to refugees through community sponsorship. As the lead implementer of the Welcome Corps, my organization has the privilege of working with so many ordinary Americans who are taking on extraordinary humanitarian acts. This room knows this too well. Many of the world's displaced are fleeing conflicts that have lasted for years, even decades. And whether it's in Afghanistan or Syria or Myanmar or Venezuela, these are not momentary flashpoints. For millions, this means enduring the slow, grinding reality of forced displacement. And so in the face of such conflicts, humanitarian efforts are vital to saving lives. And sponsorship is a way we can all be humanitarians in our own communities. And so in the short 20 months since the Welcome Corps launched, it has been a game changer, leveraging public-private partnerships to enhance America's capacity to welcome. The Americans who are doing this work are true pioneers, and I will say, so many of them are from the diaspora communities. They have raised their hands to sponsor and have committed more than $100 million to welcome refugees. Across the country, we've seen churches and mosques and universities and community groups step up to help refugees start anew. And while I'm here tonight, my sponsor group of 11 Minnesotans are busy getting ready for the arrival of the Savari family, an Afghan family who's coming in way of Turkey, and they arrive on Monday. So my group is not happy with me because I'm not pulling my weight this week. Speaking of Minnesota, one of the first families who was resettled through the Welcome Corps was another large group in rural Minnesota, and they sponsored a family who had spent 20 years in a refugee camp. 3 generations arrived here last June because a group of ordinary people said, you don't have to live in limbo anymore. You are welcome here, and we will guide you. And so tonight, as we reflect on our progress and the challenges that still lie ahead, let us remember that family by family, sponsor by sponsor, we are and can build a more inclusive, peaceful society. So I'm going to stop there because I want you to hear from Mishak, a Congolese man who is now living in Indiana with his family, and also hear from the sponsor group who welcomed them. Thank you.
Home is a place where you feel safe, a place where you feel seen and heard. I'm a welcomer because I feel that I am called to love my neighbor. Welcome Corps is essentially a group of individuals who get together, raise money, and then when they are assigned a refugee family and the family arrives, they help them navigate all of the new challenges when they come to a new country.
Our group was really unique in that we had people from all different disciplines that were helpful. I was able to get Mishak introduced into the hospital system where he found employment. Carla is a social worker, so she knew all about the different benefits that were available and how to apply for those. And Robin does ESL, so she was able to get Emerance plugged into that. Everybody brought some talents and expertise, and I would encourage people to consider this. It's been very gratifying for us as a community.
It's important to sponsor refugees because they have an incredible amount of potential that is not necessarily being realized in difficult circumstances.
It's been a wonderful learning opportunity for us, as well as a chance for the family to have a fresh new start.
Welcome Corps has been terrific for us. You'll be enriched. It will bring you joy. Mishak is like my child now.
One refugee is too many. Everyone in the wait, every single person is helpful for other one because we depend each other. The Welcome Corps group was being organized to help me, and now I am someone who can help other people.
We are so pleased to have here with us tonight Julieta Valls Noyes, Assistant Secretary of State for the Bureau of Population, Refugees, and Migration. Julieta has an extensive career in the senior foreign service. Her former roles include Deputy Director and Acting Director of the Foreign Service Institute, U.S. Ambassador to the Republic of Croatia, Deputy Assistant Secretary, Bureau of European and Eurasian Affairs, Deputy Executive Secretary for the Department of State under two Secretaries of State, and so many other domestic and overseas positions promoting positive foreign relations, upholding human rights, and inspiring humanitarianism. Isn't that just music to your ears? She is the recipient of the Presidential Rank Award, the Distinguished Honor Award, and Superior and Meritorious Honor Awards. Ambassador Noyes is a first-generation American whose parents entered the United States from Cuba as refugees. Please join me, everyone, in giving a warm welcome to Assistant Secretary Julieta Valls Noyes.
Thank you, Armine, for that kind introduction, and thank you for not reading my whole bio. We would have been here all night. I am so grateful to the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative and the Community Sponsorship Hub teams for the invitation to be with you today to mark International Day of Peace. I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time during this very busy General Assembly high-level week to discuss leaving no one behind as we pursue peace, security, and human dignity for people all around our very complex world. As Assistant Secretary of State for Population, Refugees, and Migration, I have traveled the globe to advance key U.S. humanitarian and refugee policy issues. I have witnessed extraordinary human suffering, but I've also seen extraordinary human resilience in places like Bangladesh, Turkey, Mexico, Chad, and right here in the United States. So I think it's essential that as many people know that they have a role that they can play in supporting people at risk as we leave no one behind. And that's why I want to join with Annie in talking about the Welcome Corps and how to enable everyday Americans to be global actors with great impact on their local communities. I will be honest with you, launching the Welcome Corps in January of 2023 is, and I know, will remain one of my proudest moments, not just as Assistant Secretary, but in my entire Foreign Service career. It is, as Annie was telling you, our flagship refugee private sponsorship program that works through the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program. And through the Welcome Corps, everyday Americans can directly resettle refugees in their home communities. And in doing so, they're not just providing a warm welcome to their newest neighbors, but we're also expanding and transforming our country's capacity to resettle refugees. And it's a groundbreaking innovation. We frequently say it's the biggest innovation in refugee resettlement in 4 decades. But it's also the latest chapter in a long, proud American history of welcoming others. We created the formal U.S. refugee admissions program in cooperation with other U.S. government partners after Congress passed the Refugee Act of 1980. That act passed, I'm happy to tell you, with overwhelming bipartisan support, including a unanimous 88-0 vote in the Senate. Since then, the United States has welcomed more than 3.5 million refugees to our country, and we are on pace to welcome the highest number in 3 decades this year, which ends in 1 week, this fiscal year. I'm not going to tell you the number because I don't want to jinx it, but it's a big number, it's a good number, and it's an achievement that we're really proud of. But, you know, Americans have been resettling newcomers and refugees long before that, long before the Refugee Act of 1980, going back to pogroms in Russia and throughout our history after the Second World War. Americans have been organizing in their neighborhoods and in their faith communities to receive vulnerable people fleeing persecution or violence or war. And many names stand out among the refugees who have come here with the help of private Americans. So the families of Cuban artists like Gloria Estefan or Andy Garcia fled the rise of the Castro regime in the 1950s and 60s. Iconic ballet dancer Mikhail Baryshnikov defected from the Soviet Union while on tour in Canada in 1974, and he later resettled right here in New York. And less familiar to you, and some of you in the audience have heard me talk about this, but less familiar to you but very special to me are my own parents, who also came to the United States as refugees from Cuba, as Armine said. And 60 years later, I was on a domestic trip. I went to Miami, and I went to visit some refugees who had just arrived in Miami. And my mom said she wanted to come with me. So she went and she helped me. She, a former refugee, helped me, the Assistant Secretary for Refugees, to welcome our newest neighbors to Miami. And my mom stood there, and she welcomed them to the greatest country in the world. She is... She's a Welcome Corps top fan, for sure. But, you know, welcoming refugees is not just an important humanitarian program. Refugee resettlement is also smart foreign policy. It reflects the values that form the bedrock of our country, our democracy, generosity, compassion, volunteerism. And when we demonstrate humanitarian leadership and diplomacy, we get others to join in. And with historic levels of displacement globally, it is absolutely critical that as many countries and as many governments and as many private sectors as possible are part of this. So we think that innovative programs like the Welcome Corps help us demonstrate the commitment of everyday Americans to these values, and that also helps us to achieve our foreign policy objectives. But meanwhile, the Welcome Corps also uplifts American communities just as much as it uplifts the refugees who are arriving. Refugee sponsorship helps bring local communities together, as Annie was telling us, and as that video from Indianapolis showed us. Local governments, schools, property owners, local businesses all come together to welcome newly resettled refugees. And you know, as one Welcome Corps sponsor told me at an event last week, it also helps improve the variety and the quality of restaurants in their communities, so definitely something to speak up for. We have widened the scope of Welcome Corps now through different programs related to it, Welcome Corps on Campus and Welcome Corps at Work. And these programs create brand new opportunities for eligible refugees to continue their higher education or to contribute their valuable professional skills to our workforce. I was just telling Annie too, she has to update some numbers in her little video and in her slide. I am so gratified to tell you about the overwhelming number of Americans who have now answered the call to sponsor refugees through the Welcome Corps. We now have, drum roll please, wait for it, more than 100,000 Americans from all 50 states. I'm going to say it again because I like to say this now. More than 100,000 Americans from all 50 states, plus Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia, have signed up to be refugee sponsors for more than 55,000 refugees from more than 45 countries. Amazing. And these sponsors come from all walks of life. Professionals, working class, people of all different faith communities, all different political persuasions. And that's the unique and the real return on our shared investment in the Welcome Corps, because generations of Americans will get the opportunity to contribute directly to our cherished humanitarian tradition of welcome. Some of them will be continuing the work that their ancestors began. Others will be paying forward the work and the help that their ancestors received. That's beautiful, and that is very, very American as far as I'm concerned. So please allow me to close by again thanking Aurora and Community Sponsorship Hub for the invitation to speak tonight, and thanks to all of you for coming to New York for these conversations and to write your own chapters in the long American history of humanitarian leadership. You know, as we hear in all of the events and the activities that we do during the UN High Level Week, global humanitarian needs are vast and they're growing. And there are a lot of places in the world where there are a lot of people who need support. There's a lot of suffering. But refugee resettlement is truly a durable solution for these people. And it is a source of hope. And you are part of that solution. It can be hard to find glimmers of light sometimes in this complicated world of ours, but tonight's gathering is one as far as I'm concerned. So thank you all so much. Please sign up, go visit welcomecorps.org to find out how you can join in this history, and thank you all again.
Hi everyone, I'm going to ask my panelists to come join me on the stage. Hi everyone. It's a pleasure to be here this evening, and thank you so much for those remarks. That was really inspiring, and I learned a lot in just those two videos as well, because I'm still learning about the Community Sponsorship Hub. I wasn't aware of it before being asked to moderate this event, but I'm already super excited after my conversation with Basma and Annie, and a big fan of Aurora after having learned more in the last few years. So. I hope you're in for an exciting conversation and ready to continue to be inspired. I'm Jenni Cardamone. I'm a Vice President of Partnerships at DevEx. For those of you who aren't familiar, DevEx is the media platform for the global development and humanitarian community. We are a proud partner of Aurora, and I was actually just listening this morning as I was getting ready for the very long day of meetings and events to a podcast we hosted recently with Aurora, a special edition of This Week in Global Development, which was called Putting the Human Back in Humanitarian. And I think we often forget, amidst all the jargon and everything else, that at the end of the day, we are all humans and we're hearing these human stories. So that's a great segue into tonight's event, the panel part of it. Our esteemed panelists are going to shed light on localized grassroots efforts and successful community sponsorship models that support displaced populations. You're going to hear some deep insights and also walk away ready to take action, and there's real power in that. So I'm going to briefly introduce each of them, and then we'll dive right in. Let's start with Basma. Basma Alawee is the Deputy Executive Director of the Community Sponsorship Hub, one of our co-hosts of this evening. Basma and her husband were forced to flee Iraq when her family was targeted due to her husband's work at an American company. She now lives in Florida and has 2 children. And in addition to her leadership role with Community Sponsorship Hub, she is Executive Director and co-founder of Weave Tales and a campaign manager at We Are All America. Dr. Josephine Kulea, immediately to my left here, is the founder and executive director of Samburu Girls Foundation. She's a distinguished human rights campaigner and champion, and founder of this foundation, and it's dedicated to rescuing young girls from harmful cultural practices such as FGM and child marriage, which is all inspired by her mother. Dr. Iftikher Mahmood, who's all the way down at the end here, is the founder of the Hope Foundation for Women and Children of Bangladesh. For those of you who were at Clinton Global Initiative earlier today, you would have seen him on the main stage, and he's a familiar face here. He's a Florida-based pediatrician from Cox's Bazar, Bangladesh, and I specifically mention where it is exactly because this is a region of the country where most women deliver babies without access to any trained medical professional, putting them at massive risk of death or serious injury. And Dr. Mahmood has dedicated his life to changing that. And finally, Becca here. Nice to meet you. We haven't had a chance to meet yet. Is a human rights lawyer and co-founder of IRAP, the International Refugee Assistance Project. And together with IRAP's vast network of legal advocates, Becca works to advance the rights of displaced people through direct legal services, impact litigation, and systemic advocacy. Since co-founding IRAP while in law school in 2008, she's pioneered the field of refugee rights, leading several movements that have been very successful. She's also received the TED Audacious Prize, as some of you might know, and the MacArthur Genius Fellowship. So as you can see, we have a very esteemed panel here this evening, and without further ado, let's dive right in. So we heard that we're just on the eve of the International Day of Peace, and of course this is the 79th convening of the UN General Assembly, leaving no one behind. We've all been at various conversations around town, and I want to start by just asking each of you for a few minutes to just share some high-level reflections on what you're taking away, what's being discussed or not, both locally and globally, and how it could impact your work. So why don't we start here and we can work our way down.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Jenny. And thank you, Aurora. Thank you, CGI. So this week has been fascinating, listening to all the speakers speak about leaving no one behind, the peace, the sustainable development, and of course the human dignity, which speaks to the core of our mission at the Samburu Girls Foundation. As you've heard, we are a child protection organization where we rescue the young girls. When I say child marriage, is 8 to 12-year-olds who are getting married. These are the children organization rescues, and when we say female genital mutilation, it still happens, it's rampant, and these kids go through FGM mostly on the day of their wedding. So what you see behind here is my organization, because I want to show the local action that is happening at the grassroots. Because at the end of the day, the conversations that are going here at the international levels are the ones that cascade through country adopting policies that are passed. Like a few years ago, the UN passed gender equality policies, and countries adopted, like Kenya. It was one country where we have policies in place on women and girls protection, and the organization could not work if those policies were not in place. So the conversations are very key. So just to show you how the global conversations are cascading to the local impact, this is Samburu Girls Foundation. All these kids you see here were either former brides who were married between 8 to 12-year-olds or children whom we have prevented from the same. So this is our safe space, our rescue center in Samburu community up north of Kenya. So I'll give you some examples of a few girls we've rescued just to show the success stories, because sometimes there's a lot of talk and less action, and I want to show you action at work. So this is a 9-year-old who was already married. So this girl, we rescued her. She already went through FGM. This is at a police station. We were recording the statement, and we had to rescue her from that day. This is the same girl. We enrolled her to school, and she started off schooling, and we worked with her. This is primary level. This is her in high school. She was already a student leader, governor of her school. She met the president then of Kenya in 2022. And the first lady in State House, and she talked about FGM and child marriage, and our president was very active on the topic. Today, this is her in university. She's studying international relations at the USIU Africa in Nairobi, and she's one of our role models at the organization, and she's in her first year of university. That is just one girl. This is an 8-year-old. This was her wedding day. Those are people celebrating there. She just went through FGM, and it's her wedding day. And this person took a picture of this child getting married and sent it to us, and we took to action and rescued her. This is her 6 months later at our rescue center. She's back to being a child. This is her when she was completing her elementary education, joining high school. And this is her today in that year of high school. She's almost completing her high school. And this is how our success stories end. This is a girl who was married at 7 years old. Today she's a graduate social worker. Next. This one is a 10-year-old former child bride. She just graduated from fashion and design in her room. This one was married off after elementary school. She's now a human resource manager with a degree. And this one is a criminologist. She's the first girl ever in her village to go to school. This one is a mathematician. She was married off in 7th grade, and we took her back to school. Today, she's a mathematician and a statistician. And I think just to show you that it is possible, like whatever conversations we are having here, there are 3 ways. Countries that have not adopted policies can be pushed to adopt policies. Countries that have adopted policies like us and are not implementing should be held accountable and made sure that we have data and statistics. And lastly, we can achieve this if there is collaboration between international organizations and the local grassroots organization. It's been 12 years. These are 2,000 girls. I would have shared all of them here, but we don't have time. And I believe that all of us can make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's incredible, the work that you're doing, and to see the smile on those girls' faces is everything. Basma.
It's really hard to follow, and also I have been out from my, away from my family since Thursday last week, so having 2 daughters is just making me so emotional to really understand and appreciate the work you are doing. I have 12 and 16 years old daughters, and part of why I do this work is really because of them. So thank you so much for all of the work you're doing. I think, and this is also my 2nd year in UNGA Week, so really learning about how everything works. I don't know how people really manage all of these meetings, but and it's also really hard to keep track of all meetings. But I will say one of the reflection I had that some of these meetings missing the voices of people who are impacted in the room. So I hope more and more we can push to have more people who are impacted by the policy and the work to be present, to uplift their stories and voices in these rooms. For me, the theme of No One Left Behind is no more a theme rather than a call to action. As you shared, I have witnessed wars, actually, not one. I also have sought refuge and lived part of that displacement journey. I navigated resettlement and integration, understood very well how I could be, as a human, unseen, unsupported, and really fought for myself, my family, my daughters, and my community to be seen and heard and not left behind. And I think for me now, as a leader, privileged to be citizen, and as many of you here leaders, it's our responsibility to make sure that no one left behind. I was actually 4 a.m. this morning reading some status, and there's a global trending stat say that 1 out of 69 individuals in the world is forcibly displaced. So I'm thinking about our 69. I don't know how many people in the room today, but how we can really make sure that one is not left behind. And their story is uplifted in every community meeting, or, because this is our responsibility to make sure that they are uplifted and heard, and they are not left behind. I think lastly, I will say, you heard from Assistant Secretary Noyes about the opportunity that we have today in the US to expand the resettlement of refugees, complementary pathways. We have amazing programs like the Welcome Corps on campus, Welcome Corps at work. Becca can talk about the amazing work that's happening around family reunification and really the advocacy around that work. We do have many great ways to advocate to make sure that no one left behind. And hopefully next year in UNGA, we have more representation of people with forced displacement or people who are impacted by many of these harmful policy to be uplifted in main stages and making sure that their story is heard in all stages next year.
That's a great call to action.
I'm Becca, and I'm an imposter. I don't have lived experience. And I'm here anyway, and I'm gonna try to share something remotely valuable, but I also really echo what Basma said about the importance of giving space to other voices, so I'm gonna be brief.
That wasn't a good call to action.
I didn't think it was directed at me, but I heard it, and I reflected upon it, and I'm gonna sit in my privilege and act accordingly. So my organization, the International Refugee Assistance Project, takes sort of a legal angle on all of this, which is that we take sort of a very literal definition of power, and we think about how to get power to people who need power and maybe do not have it in a traditional way or in a way that allows them to access the international institutions that are creating humanitarian disasters. We're specifically focused on the migration angle, and I think when I reflect on Leave No One Behind, I have just two thoughts. One is that who's being left behind shifts, and we cannot get complacent, right? Because maybe we think like, oh, there's so much attention on this issue, and now these people are gonna be fine, but like someone else now is being left behind. And then I think about who's being left behind in sort of these massive global power structures and in the politics of nation states. And I do think that migrants are the authoritarian scapegoats of the moment. I think that we have authoritarian leaders and wannabe leaders and former and maybe future leaders all over the world who are trying to ride xenophobia and the demonization of migrants into power that they will then try to hang on to by doing things like separating parents from their children and creating mass deportation camps, etc. So I guess to take Basma's invitation, call to action to you is to stay vigilant in terms of who's being left behind and how, and also not to be scared off from really advocating for whoever's being left behind in a given moment just because it feels politically convenient.
Thank you. I'm Iftikher Mahmood. I live in Florida, and I'm happy to be among you. And thanks to Aurora Foundation, Aurora Humanitarian Initiative, for inviting me to this CGI and this event. I have been living in the US for many years, and I know about CGI, and I have never been here, but it was eye-opening experience, and being here also is an amazing experience. I'm a pediatrician. I came from Bangladesh, where, as Jenni mentioned, that the most women have their birth at home in the hands of untrained providers. That leads to high maternal mortality, neonatal mortality. When I was in medical school about 40 years ago, it really affected me. I was very touched. I have seen the devastation in the families, but I couldn't do much. I was young, and I waited until I came to the US for higher studies. I went to school here at Cornell. I did my fellowship, and I settled in Florida, but I never forgot that experience that I had in Bangladesh. Then I decided to start the Hope Foundation for Women and Children of Bangladesh to actually take the service to these women who actually dies for no reason, because childbirth death is a preventable death, as far as I know. Is all you need as a early intervention, antenatal checkup. If you have to do those, there should not be any death. There are countries that childbirth is related death is 1 in 100,000, whereas in Some parts of the world, there are 500 in 100,000. Globally right now is 223 women are dying for 100,000 childbirth. That, as we speak, every 2 minutes, one woman is dying somewhere in the world. Every 2 minutes. So that is something that not right. So I started this organization to at least help my community. Started a small clinic with the focusing on women's health. So this is the first time I'm in CGI. It actually opened my eyes. It was 2 days I was in these conferences. From beginning to end, everybody was talking about women's health, women's empowerment, but again and again came to women's health. How, if we can empower women, how we can touch the lives of women in a better way, the society will be better, because we are talking about no one lives, leaving no one behind. That is a very powerful statement as far as I can see, and it's a clear statement that no one should be left behind for disability or being a different gender or for any reason. So it is a message of inclusiveness. It is a message of equality, and to have a peaceful world, which we all want, right? That we need to have peace, we need to have stability. And I will, if I get a chance, I will talk more about my involvement with the refugee work. But with the Rohingya refugees, when came from Myanmar, escaping genocide, came to Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh, town that I've been working over a period of about 4 weeks or 5 weeks. 800,000 Rohingya people came. Most of them are women and children, right? And I was from that area. I was here, but I went back to work with that group, and we established the largest field hospital for the women. And entire camp, all the sick women, the sickest women would be referred to our hospital for their care. So, I have a lot of experience with that. I understand the issues with the refugees being displaced, and we can talk more about it. But the message is clear. We have to work in 2 ways. One is the higher level, the people, the policymakers, the government, the global leaders, they will set the policies. But people like us who are on the ground working, touching one life at a time. And for my organization, what I did, I focused on training midwives. I started training midwives 12 years ago when I realized that we don't have the tools to help the mother unless we have skilled birth attendants. So we are one of the first in Bangladesh to start midwifery training, and we have been training midwife for past 12 years. So far we have had around 300 midwives trained already, but our movement helped the country. Other organizations also started training midwives. So my personal objective is to train as many midwives as possible, and maybe in thousands of them, because they are the one who can stop maternal death and then neonatal death. So that's my objective, and I hope to continue my work. And that is my connection to leaving no one behind. I want to focus that I don't want to leave them behind as much as I can. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Dr. Kulea, let's start with you. We were hearing that the issue of women and girls is rising to the occasion of global conversations at CGI and elsewhere. I'm curious, how do we localize that? How do we make sure that action is happening? We're talking about this. It's great to be here. It's great to hear, the commitments, but how do we support you in the work you're doing and make sure that we're actually bringing this and supporting you after UNGA Week?
Thank you very much, Jenny. So there's so many ways women and girls can be supported through the local grassroots organization, and one of them is already happening by bringing the local leaders to the international platforms like UNGA, like having the young women and girls who work in those local communities come and speak up. Actually, next time I would prefer my beneficiaries to come and sit here and tell us, not me. Because the girls, I mean, the local leaders know their challenges and they can articulate them well, and they also have their own solutions. And the moment they come to the table, we always have this thing, we say that when you're an outsider, you cannot bring solutions. We know the solutions to our own problems, so hold our hand and we are able to solve our own issues, but don't bring us your own modernized ways to solve issues, because it won't work at the local level. So when you bring the solution, the people who are addressing to the international platforms, they're able to voice it, and their voices are amplified, and the global leaders can pick that up from them. Secondly, partnerships between the international organizations and the grassroots organizations. As I said again, we have our solutions, we just need the resources to do the work. And if you trust us to do what we do best, then we can achieve great together. And lastly, when I say partnership, I mean funding. The grassroots organization need funding for their work. And secondly, we need capacity building. You know, we have big donors who say, oh, you are a small organization, you can't handle my money. But train that organization how to handle that big money and give them in small bits until they are able to achieve. Because if you refuse to give that organization money, even if you come and pitch tent in that village and build and pay big salaries to foreigners, you'll still hire locals to translate for you the local language because they don't understand and the culture. So at the end of the day, there's little money trickling to the community itself, and the big organization will pack your bags in 2 years, your project is over, but those local organizations will remain there for hundreds of years to come. And lastly, the local organizations can, once their voice is amplified at this level, the international organizations or bodies can be able to hold our governments accountable. And one of the examples is by ensuring that there's data. Like right now, if you ask me what's the data, the percentages of these things, most of this data is not available. And of the things that I've just presented, because the governments are not providing data so that they don't look bad. So they don't want to say what's happening, so we need the governments to be held accountable, like they need to provide data. How have we progressed since the laws were passed? And now, where are we 10, 20 years down the line? Have we improved? What are the numbers? So with that, we're able to track progress and ensure that everyone is winning. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Mahmood, let's go to you, because continuing on the theme of women and girls before we then shift back to others. So I'd love to understand what you see as the most pressing obstacle to your work right now and to humanitarians in responding to the need. I know you've scaled up a lot since you began, and you had that, the dream of opening your first clinic. Talk to us a little bit more about how this community can be supporting you.
Thank you for the question. I think Dr. Kulea already responded to part of that, like localization. I'm going there. So I think that as a Bangladeshi living here in the US for many years, I have seen both sides. I think we are living in a world of unprecedented prosperity. There is so much growth, financial growth, so much positive things are happening. If you look at the GDP, currently global GDP is $110 trillion. In even past couple of years, it grew in $10-20 trillion already. However, we thought that with the money, with the dollar, with the $1 trillion, everybody will be happy and there will be no problem. But if you look at the displacement, 2-3 years ago when I looked at the data, it was 90 million. Right now it's 120 million people are displaced worldwide. And according to the UN statistics, there are 300 million people need humanitarian assistance. That is 1 in 27 people need humanitarian assistance. So obstacle, right? We're suffering. the people who need assistance and people who are working for them. We are all suffering right now. I can give you an example, concrete example, instead of going to theory. So as I said, I built a hospital there for the Rohingya refugees. Are you familiar with Rohingya refugees? In 2017, when from Myanmar, a lot of people were victim of genocidal attack, and people left in mass, almost 1 million people came to Bangladesh, 800,000 plus. So we built that hospital there, and from all over the world people came, international doctors, nurses, midwives, and donors came, hundreds of millions of dollars, right? Some relief, we are able to give service, we are able to take care of them. After 2 years, COVID hit. For 2 or 3 years, COVID, right? All the international NGOs left because they had to leave. That was the rule. They couldn't stay in Bangladesh. Thousands of volunteers, thousands of helper, doctors, nurses, they left and left with us. Hope Foundation, local organization. After that, there are some major crises happen. Then donors shifted their eyes to other crises, rightfully so, because there are other crises going on. So what happened? Now, 7 years after, I give you the fact, 800,000 people is now 1.3 million. Think about it, 1.3 million, they live in only 25 square kilometer space. The space did not grow. The people has grown 60%. And that place is the highest density place on earth. 60,000 people live in 1 square kilometer. Drop of funding causes malnutrition in children and pregnant women. 30% children are now stunted. These are real people, right? They're living there, no employment, no education, no school going. They're just there waiting. And as far as I know, there is no conversation going on having them go back to their home country. There is no funds, there are no providers, and now all these people, who are taking care of them, who are giving them the health care, who are giving them food, people like us. And we are financially, we are resource poor, resource restrained, and the population, the refugee population, almost everyone has skin disease because of the living condition, because there is no brick structure. There's like a bamboo shack, with just a tent. In each small tent, 4 or 5 people live there. There is no simple basic privacy, right? Everybody has skin disease. Most people have stomach illness. Most people have respiratory illness. Most people have chronic diseases, right? And we have to deal with it. So only way we can deal with it is that if we get support from international community, if we can build local capacity. If we were not there, who take care of them, right? Because the people who came, they left. So that is the obstacle we face. And the solution is, please think about supporting the local organization, who are on the ground, local operationals who are on the ground, so we can take the job and move forward from there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I know we're running out of time. We still have so much we want to talk about, so we're going to try to just do some rapid fire rounds. Basma, over to you. What are some of the key challenges you're seeing refugee community face right now here in the US and globally? Obviously, we heard about some solutions earlier tonight, which I'm thrilled about. I wasn't as familiar with the programs, but what are some of the current challenges you're dealing with?
Yeah, and maybe I can name some challenges, and Becca, since we work in the same field, feel free to add
yes,
to,
please,
to
take
the
it together.
challenges. I think one of the things that I really feel the biggest challenge specifically that...
And how we can rise to meet the needs.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I want to talk about solutions.
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
so it's about leaving me with the top one. Okay, so I think really what is producing the really forced displacement? We have a really conflicts going on all over the world, instability, people really wars existing all over the world at the moment. And I know that I should not be and giving you the talk about the solutions, but I really feel like we are not investing much in peace building, as we should be also in really engaged in diplomatic efforts that put people first, and really engage people who are affected by these issues in the first round. The second is, which Becca, you talked about it, the rise of xenophobia. I don't think this is a new thing. This have been going for a long time. Even when I arrived to the US in 2010, the first 3 months, I spent the first 3 months really being victim of really facing xenophobia in the street of Florida and trying to educate the local community about who I am and why I end up being in the US in that neighborhood, and educating the community about the world refugee needs, but also how the US foreign policy is also adding to really producing refugees, and how we can really, as a global leaders, talk more about the root cause of migration and how we can really stop that. Xenophobia and really the fear and prejudice of the others has been really an issue that we continue to face. And as we have heard it from the speakers, the huge gap between the needs and the response we are seeing. We are seeing a great models of expansion of welcoming work, but we need to sustain it. And that's gonna take, I always keep saying, we need a couple of more years to sustain this work. We in a short time, we have over 100,000 Americans stepped in. We are looking for millions more to join this movement, and by then we will be able to sustain it, and whatever governments say and go, we will be able to say, the people will be able to say that you cannot stop welcoming work from happening in the US.
Thank you, thank you. And Becca, maybe you can talk a little bit about, on the micro and macro level, how we can support.
On all the levels.
All the levels.
Yeah, I think you should look for people with lived experience, obviously. I cannot make that case more eloquently than people already have. I think people who have knowledge, obviously lived experience is one type of knowledge. Another type of knowledge is needed skills. So midwives, and forgive me for saying this, but lawyers, right? I think a lot of people have problems that essentially boil down to a legal issue, and we currently still live in a system where you need a lawyer to fix that for you. I think especially people who have hope and people who have ideas. I've obviously been thinking a lot about migration and the demonization of migration, and I really think we need a forward-looking vision for this field, and that if we're ceding all of the airspace, pardon me, I hit the mic when I said airspace, that was ironic. If we're ceding all of the airspace to people who are only preaching hate, and the only thing that we're hearing is hate and hopelessness, we're not going to be able to move forward. So just really briefly, here are 3 things that I'm super excited about that I think we could be doing in migration. If you're excited about any of these, come talk to me. I would love to do things with you. 1, family reunification. There are so many moms who live in different countries from their children. They should be living under the same roof. If we care about family values, we should believe that people should all be able to live in the same home and be a family together. There is so much tremendous need for this and so much to do. 2, climate. Climate is going to displace something like 2 billion people by the year 2070, and there is not currently any sort of framework to deal with climate refugees or climate displacement. There is a lot of really important and essential stuff to do in this space. 3 is labor. The demographic shifts in a variety of countries mean that more and more migrants are going to come through labor pathways. Currently, there is not enough thinking about how rights factor into that. How do we make sure that people are coming in for jobs that have dignity and where they won't get abused? How do we use labor pathways at scale to enable people to move in a safe way and still respect their rights when they get there? There are obviously, if you ask any one person here, I'm sure they'd have like 20 ideas, but I just want to make sure that when we're talking about migration, we're not just talking about hate and hopelessness, we're talking about a positive vision forward.
Thank you, that is brilliant. And So speaking of those 3 concrete actions, I'd like to ask each panelist for one either concrete takeaway you'd like the audience to have, or one final way that everyone here can be a humanitarian. We were hoping to do audience Q&A, but we've run out of time, and there'll be time to interact during the reception. So one final takeaway for the audience, or call to action, please.
Thank you very much. I would like to say that for all of us, we can be humanitarians, we can collaborate, we can have inclusivity in our work, and we can do sustainability as a way of having greater impact. And my call to action to all of you is, if you're still looking for something to do as a humanitarian, pick any organization that is close to your heart and work with them. For us, education is our big entry point, and if you want to sponsor a girl through our organization, you can talk to me after this. Thank you very much. Let's make a difference together.
I'm just curious, by raising of hands, how many of the audience is US based? Okay, so we hit the road in January of this year to visit cities, to knock on doors and canvas, to get people to be in a group of 5 and welcome refugees through the Welcome Corps. And so far we have over 100,000 Americans said, yes, we want to do this. So we have many more roads to go, many more cities to visit. Invite us. Start the dialogue in your community, and let's bring really more of this welcoming dialogue live in your community. So please join us in this movement. We would like to really create more welcoming efforts that bring the narrative that we are talking about. That's how we really fight xenophobia, by really creating more welcoming communities that can come together and interact with the refugees community. Because we do need us in this country, and we want to make sure that we are all working towards a really unified, welcoming community in the United States.
I would just say, have hope, don't be afraid, and know when people have heard enough from you.
Yeah, I have come to know about Aurora a few months ago, and their principle is that gratitude is, I think, is very, very important, and I feel that we all should be full of gratitude and be optimistic. There are so much problems going on. Maybe more problem will happen, maybe it will be better, but we remain optimistic. We do as much as we can from our position and from our place. And I'm a big fan of Mother Teresa. So I would say that if you cannot, her quote, if you cannot feed 100 people, feed one person. So one person at a time. Do whatever you can from your position. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's see a show of hands. Who here identifies as being a humanitarian? I hope every hand is raised. We all can do our part, okay? That is the takeaway from today. So a few ways you can uplift everyone here's work in addition to what was shared. You can scan this QR code either now or at the high tops as we network and mingle afterwards to show your gratitude in action. Learn more, donate, get involved. There's no way too small. Second, nominate a candidate that's inspiring for the Aurora Prize. Nominations are now open on the website. And finally, as we think about local action and tying these together, find in your local U.S. community and get involved with the Community Sponsorship Hub. It's an amazing model, 100,000 strong, and we have so much further to go. So on behalf of myself and DevX, Aurora, and the Community Sponsorship Hub, thank you for choosing to be with us tonight. We know there's so many competing events around town. I'm certainly inspired. I hope you are too. And please join me in a round of applause for our amazing panelists.
Thank you all so much. That was really wonderful. I just want to play back a few things that came out loud and clear and that I think are really converging. This is a week of convergence, people, ideas, sometimes cars if you sat in any of the New York traffic. A few concepts that really stood out: inclusion, leave no one behind, the UNGA week theme, optimism, what's working. Many of us came over from CGI, it was referred to, that was their theme this year. Peace, the International Day of Peace. It feels elusive, but it's such an important pursuit and purpose. And of course, remembrance and action. One of the ways that you can take action is by getting your phone out, scanning the QR code, and joining us. This is a collaborative effort, and it's going to take all of us to really get capital in the hands of local actors. Furthermore, sponsor a refugee in your local community. You can take action tonight. All right, we are all about stimulating hearts and minds at Aurora. I think we have thoroughly checked the mind box. We are now going to move on to hearts, and so there will be some wine circulated for those who would like to partake. Otherwise, please, shake out your legs, shake out your arms, because we're going to shift gear a little bit here. Aloe Blacc, who I mentioned earlier, is a chart-topping, Grammy-nominated performing artist. Yeah. What's notable is that that's not even the most remarkable thing about him. He's also a philanthropist, a biotech investor, and a staunch advocate for important causes like mentorship and localization. He is a dear friend of Aurora's, and he's come out to join us tonight to give us a wonderful gift, the gift of music. He'll be playing for us a really wonderful set, including a song that he wrote for the Aurora Humanitarians. I sampled it earlier. So with that, cheers. Let's shake it out and enjoy.
Good evening. Thank you so much, Armine, for that wonderful introduction. I'm going to sing some songs for you tonight with my friend Farmer on the keys. The first song I'm going to sing for you was written inspired by the Aurora Prize, the humanitarians and the laureates, the people who are doing the real work that we're all here to celebrate. This is called Shine. In the darkness of despair, where your fears grow deep inside, and no one seems to care, and all your hope has nearly died, well, I believe in you, and I know that you will shine, to show us the way you will shine, to brighten the day you will shine, forever and ever and ever and evermore, and for all of us, for all of us, for all of us, you will. When the road ahead looks dim and you tremble in your stride, trust you'll find the strength within. The brightest light will be your guide, and I believe in you. Yes, I believe in you, and I know that you will shine, to brighten the day you will shine, to show it's okay you will shine, forever and ever and ever and evermore. When you stand up for what is true, and you fight, yes, you fight for what is right, when love becomes your only rule, your golden rule, that's when you are the brightest light, and you will shine. Shine, shine. Will you shine to brighten the day? Will you shine to show it's okay? Will you shine forever and ever and ever and evermore, and for all of us, for all of us, for all of us, you will, you will. Thank you. Thank you. It was my honor to try to translate the depth of the work that the laureates do, that humanitarians do all across the world. One thing that I know is true is that folks who are willing to stand in the face of mortal danger to save the lives of others are doing things their way. They've taken the risk that others wouldn't take. So this next song is a song that also speaks to doing things your way. When other people tell you you're crazy, they're gonna kill you for that. You're gonna get hurt, you'll go to jail. These people do it anyway. They do it their way. I've been sad, I've been lost, I've been down and out and lonely. Yeah, I've been suffering at a job in a world that tries to own me. But when I wake up in the morning, there's an image of a better place. Yeah, because the harder that we grind, then the sweeter is the glory. Now people say I'm foolish. People say I'm blinded by faith. But if I run out of air, if I crash, I don't care. I'm gonna do it my way. I can make it through this. You can throw the world in my face. But the fear gives me life, and I swear till I die, I'm gonna do it my way. Hey, I'm gonna do it my way. I'm gonna do it my way. Now every time they build a wall around me, I'ma tear it down and say, gotta live my dreams. I'm gonna live my dreams. Even when the floods rush round to drown me, I'll just hold my breath and pray, let me live my dreams. Every single one of my, I ain't quitting none of my dreams. People say I'm foolish. People say I'm blinded by faith. But if I run out of air, if I crash, I don't care. I'm gonna do it my way. I can make it through this. You can throw the world in my face. But the fear gives me life, and I swear till I die, I'm gonna do it my way. Let me fly through the air, if I crash, I don't care. I'm gonna do it my way. Cause the fear gives me life, and I swear till I die, I'm gonna do it my way. Thank you so much. No, I'm not one to stand between a crowd of people and their libations. So I will sing this next one for you. It's a song of hope and a song of nostalgia. It's a song that I dedicate to all of you who are dreaming for a better tomorrow. And I want to be there shoulder to shoulder with you to build that better tomorrow. Thank you to all of you at the Aurora Humanitarian Prize for allowing me to share my song and to be part of your story. Feeling my way through the darkness, guided by a beating heart. I can't tell where the journey will end, but I know where to start. They tell me I'm too young to understand. They say I'm caught up in a dream. Life will pass me by if I don't open up my eyes. Well, that's fine by me. So wake me up when it's all over, when I'm wiser and I'm older. All this time I was finding myself, and I didn't know I was lost. So wake me up when it's all over, when I'm wiser and I'm older. All this time I was finding myself, and I didn't know I was lost. Now I tried carrying the weight of the world, but I only have 2 hands. I hope I get the chance to travel the world, but I don't have any plans. Wish that I could stay forever this young, not afraid to close my eyes. But life's a game made for everyone, and love is the prize. So wake me up when it's all over, when I'm wiser and I'm older. All this time I was finding myself, and I didn't know I was lost. So wake me up when it's all over, when I'm wiser and I'm older. All this time I was finding myself, and I didn't know I was lost. 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 So wake me up when it's all over, when I'm wiser and I'm older. All this time I was finding myself, and I didn't know I was lost. Thank you so much.